Hello, dear viewer and listener, and people doing neither, and welcome to Bergkamp Wonderland. We are sometimes an Arsenal podcast when my lot can be bothered to turn up. Talking about people barely turning up. Chris, you all right, Treaky?
Treaky? And we're at Bergkamp Wonderland, are we?
It's Cheeky Treacle.
You say I can't turn up and you can't even speak properly. What kind of outfit are you running here?
I've got most of my teeth missing.
Dear listener that is tuning in, the reason that many of us are not available is because Danny gets up at 5 a.m. No, sorry, midnight, and goes to bed at 5 a.m. We're all kind of real normal people, so that's the reason why. Hi, Danny, how are you?
I've got a Twitter account. How are you?
I'll get fucked.
Are you looking forward to the Malta game tonight? How do you think you're going to get on?
I am. It's the Faroe Isles, so it's a toughie. But it's winner take all.
Faroe Islands.
Yeah, if they win by 2 clear goals, they'll get promoted from division. I think it's Group D gate of division. I don't know the Nations League group they're in.
Can you wake me up when you finish talking about Malta?
I bet the
It's going to be great.
Faroe Islands to run for them.
Can we just have a chat, Soph?
I'm very invested.
You are very invested. You don't pick the worst teams in the world and then decide to support them, even though they're rubbish, just to give his life more grief.
Very hilarious.
Anyway, so we've got someone here being a bit cheeky. We go through the people watching in a minute, but next up, we've got Sophie, back-to-back podcasts and back-to-back cups of coffee. I see you've lost the big coat.
I did a costume change, like like a host in Miss World or the Golden Globes. So
Lovely.
Costume change. Plus, I got bloody hot in that jacket and that scarf. So yes, here I am.
You look like peak Ron manager.
I'll take it.
With the old sheepskin, how are you? I've really been enjoying your pods. I'm saying you're making us look lazy. You're knocking out pods every few days, all your lockdown ones, all your ones with Kev, where he's you two having a right little argument. It's very good. And then he talks a bit louder, and then you talk a bit louder, and then he talks a bit louder, then you give up because you think I'm not going to win this.
Listen, I'm going to concede to the legend at the end of the day. I'll only take it so far. So
it is so good to see a bloke of his reputation in the world of football hanging around with you lot. It's gives us all hope. I expect Ian Wright to be on our show regularly very soon, hopefully, possibly.
After we get him on our show, we'll send him to
after
you.
us.
Oh, you know that if he ever does come on your show, everybody's going to want to get him on. So the first thing you need to go is Ian Wright's on ours. Nobody bug him and ask him to come on yours, and that'll end it.
Maybe I'll just bribe him about that night in Moscow, and then we'll get him on.
Oh, excellent.
No, I'm just kidding, just jesting. That's
Don't want to talk about that.
No, I don't want to talk about that.
So you're all good though.
Top shelf, always.
Lovely. And here we go. I'll let Mike introduce you, Amanda. Mike from the Gooners. Remember Mike, sexy Mike. The pod has 4 of the sexiest people I know involved. It's nice that you also included Amanda. What do you have to say to that, Amanda?
I can't actually say what I want to say because some of your listeners think that I'm probably a lady, so I'm not going to go to his level. But hello, Danny, and hello, Chris.
You should, Amanda, go to his level.
No, I'm not
wanker.
going to his level. He's such a tosspot. I'm not going to that level.
So are you good, Amanda? Are you looking? This is how many times have we arranged this and had to call it off within a couple of days' notice because for some reason or I think one of them
Someone can't do it.
I broke a tooth and couldn't really talk properly, let alone eat.
I was just honoured to be asked to come on. It's been a long time since I've been on this podcast. It's got to be 6-7 years, I would say.
Podcast number 10, and this is podcast 377.
I obviously made a really good impression, didn't I? I was asked back straight away.
It was the transfer deadline day. It was like it was Paul Podman in my pants. The last time he was on was number 10 as well. So we should try and get people we've had on in the olden days more. Oh,
listen, there's the Podfather, and then there's a Bergkamp Wonderland, and then there's this legend.
Just as I was about to finish introducing Amanda, it's the man who
he always takes my glory. Always.
He does, but it's the man who, when I was at Highbury, the first thing I do is I go and have a look through the programme, go and have a look at the reserves and see how many hat-tricks Kevin Campbell had scored that week. And quite often, it was a lot. Mr. Kevin Campbell.
Hey, guys. How is everybody? Hope you're all well. Hello,
good.
PG. How are you?
Hello, Casey. I'm fine, thank you.
That's good.
Chris's
I'm
cat.
sorry. I'm
is
sorry,
epic.
Danny. We've already taken over your podcast.
That's okay. That's what we want.
You're right, Dan.
Sit back.
I am very, very all the better for speaking to. I think we've done a couple of shows together, but you've not spoken to Chris ever, have you?
No, he has. No, we did.
I've
a-
spoken to Chris before.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did?
Was it the Saliba or Gabrielle show we did together? Saliba, right, Chris?
You're right, Chris.
Yeah, good, Kev. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Is that a cat there?
Yeah,
I can see. Lovely.
he's stealing the show, just sitting exactly where he shouldn't be.
Nice one.
Got
nice
9 lives like Arteta.
Cool.
Oh,
Oi.
What is wrong with you?
She's on it. She's on it.
Shameful. How long have we got you for, Kev?
You got me for 40 minutes.
40. That's
Wow.
probably the end of the
Make
show.
it count,
By
Danny.
the
Make
way-
We
it
are
count.
so honoured. Thanks,
I
Kev, for showing up.
That is the best.
Oh, I love
Who made that? Is someone
No
making them?
Laguna. No Laguna.
Oh,
And it's
we love him.
Tees Spring is the website. Tees Spring. But it's No Laguna. He used to work at Arsenal and he now lives in is it LA he lives in?
The United
lives in-
States of America.
No, sorry, he lives in
No,
New
he's in
Orleans,
New
doesn't he?
Orleans.
He lives
Yeah.
in New Orleans, lives
Oh,
near
yeah.
Tiffany, doesn't he? He lives not
Yes,
too
he
far
does.
from Tiffany, a couple of
Yes.
hours. But he designed this. It took him a little while to get it cleared, but it's cleared now. And as soon as I saw it, I had to buy it.
Can
I
you
had to get
stand
it.
up, Kev, so I can
He,
see
he
it?
did,
No,
he did this on
no.
our show earlier.
Excuse
By the way,
me,
we had the
I-
exclusive. We had the exclusive earlier. Just
Yeah.
saying,
I
Chris
haven't
was
Yeah.
seen it. Some of us
But
were working.
I just showed you.
We didn't have the cat, but we had the exclusive on the sweatshirt.
Oh,
I just
you're
want to
on
say.
one of
I-
those
I-
moods, Kevin Campbell.
Look, here you go.
To be
Oh, I
fair,
like
he has
that,
showcased
yeah.
it quite a bit.
That's cool. Anyway, should
nice
we be
hoodie.
quiet and let Danny talk because it is his show?
Wait, I'm reading in chat. Is Chris back on Twitter? I'm like, when did Chris leave Twitter?
I didn't even know he wasn't on Twitter.
Don't
Chris,
even, don't even open that big black box.
Okay, I'll close that box.
Let's just say my love for French football has got me DMCA strucken from Twitter. Let's just say that much. And
Oh, have you been banned?
Oh, we're in Twitter prison.
suspended, apparently pending. Well, they call it suspension, but I've 3 times now.
Like a Coquelin suspension type, or like
I hope
Or
to
a Nicholas
return.
Bentler suspension type.
Yeah, I hope to return one day. But I do find it amazing that you can post links to illegal streams 30 times a day and get nothing happen to you. But you post one Florian Thauvin goal and you're getting all sorts of shit. It's hilarious.
wow.
But, you know, hey ho, that's the wonderful world we live in. So one day
We need one of those. What do they call it when you sign shit so everyone can bring him back? What do you call that?
Petition.
Petition. There you go. Petition.
I
No
don't
one
think
would sign
I'm
it.
tired.
I don't need any more French nonsense football all over my timeline. It's
No, we
need-
don't.
I
Stay
do
off,
miss
Chris.
his controversial opinions, though. So
I
I've
love
had to
it.
do 'em. And I put the hashtag RIP Chris, and someone went, "Don't tell me he's dead." I said, "Well, his Twitter dead."
that would have been a good ring with this person.
Just follow him on Instagram. He posts the most amazing pictures of his runs. KC, you would love his pictures. And Amanda, you being a walker now, some of the vistas where Chris lives, stunning, really good stuff. So you can always catch Chris on Instagram. Hey, listen, I'll do your PR, ABW. I'm available.
I feel like I owe you
I'm
money.
furloughed.
Well, you even forget to tell people we're doing shows. Normally, people put it in advance. We just don't know. We like to surprise them. Surprise
Just
with,
turn up whenever.
there you go. True Gooner saying Super Kevin Campbell. It even says on your Wikipedia, Kev, it says Super Kev. I mean, if Wikipedia
gotta
says
be.
it, it's a fact, isn't it?
gotta be.
Yeah, it must be.
Right,
Must be.
Let's get a wiggle on. Right, everybody knows that I started with Steve's Ball Collective, and then also that's how Amanda started, wasn't it, Amanda? Tell people how you got into podcasting. The first half hour of this, we just talk about podcasting and what you lot are doing, and the order of how you lot all joined the podcast, and then we move on to talk a little bit about football at the end. So, Amanda, how did you get into it?
Well, the same as you, really, Danny. But I was just new to Twitter, and I got a tweet saying, "Can you follow me?" And then Steve messaged me and said, "We'd like you to come on a podcast." And I no word of a lie went, "What's a podcast?" I honestly did. And anyone that knows me, Sophie can't wait to speak. Look. And it was 9 years ago. I went, what's a podcast? I said, can I be seen? I went, no. And it wasn't. It was done by Skype. And I said, why would anyone want to listen to me talking about football? I was like, okay. And there was 9 of us. He put 9 of us together. And no disrespect to some of the people on there, but they didn't even know who Tottenham's manager was. So I didn't really want to be associated with that. I'm not a fangirl, obviously. So he then put 4 of us together, and then that worked, and then people changed and couldn't commit. And we started up the Gooner. I can't remember if it was the Gooner Girls podcast, because you were the boys version, weren't you, with your lot? You were like the brother pod of us. And it went really well for quite a while, and then things happened, Dan, as you know, and things happened on your pod, things happened on our pod. It wasn't so good. People change, and then I left. Gooner Girls podcast ended, and I had a break for 6 months because just couldn't handle it anymore. It's too much.
It is.
And then Giles is a friend of mine via Twitter, and Giles was on the Gooner Ramble, and I remember being at work one day thinking, I just fancy being a guest on a pod. I just fancy talking about football again. And no word of a lie, he'd WhatsApp me and goes, do you want to come on the Gooner Ramble? And I went, yeah, I'd love to. He goes, but we'd like you to come on regularly. And I went, yeah, I just want to be a guest. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I'll just turn up, talk and go. And that's literally what happened. And then that was really good. And they had lots of different people on the Gooner Ramble. And then I said to Giles and Axe at the time, I said, do you know what? I'd love to get the girls together. I'll just find some girls and we'll do a girls pod. I missed that because obviously I originally started with just girls. Then Gareth turned up, and I got Seema because Seema was already on Gooner Ramble and I knew her. And then a friend of mine, Sophia, who I thought would be good. And I said to Axe, I can't really find another girl that I think would be any good. And then all of a sudden, Axe went, well, I've got a friend called Sophie Nicolau who is just brilliant. I went, okay, give me her email. I emailed her. And then what happened was she responded and said, I'd love to do it, which is her. Literally, this is how it started. And then we can bring Sophie in and then Kev. And then we did a pod and it just was brilliant. I hosted it, not that I'm good at hosting, and the girls were brilliant. They all knew their football. It was a proper football pod, and we all loved it so much. It was a one-off, but we all loved it so much we wanted to continue, and we did continue for a couple of years, and we became Highbury and Hills. And then things happen again, and Sophie and I were left to find our own pod, and Sophie came up with the name within about 2 minutes of the Highbury squad. I went, I love that, and the two of us have been together ever since. And during that time, Mr. Kevin Campbell, that way, I can't even do it that way, wherever he is on the screen. I got friendly with him on Twitter and, invited him on, and he literally, we can't get rid of him, Dan. He does every pod with us and we just can't get rid of him. He just begs us, don't you, Kev, to be on our pod.
Big time.
He just begs. And I'm honestly trying to get rid, so hopefully he'll get the hint now. And yeah, no, and the three of us just started Highbury Squad. Sophie and I, Kev was with us as much as he could be, and it just works. I mean, big up to Soph. She's not been doing pods every few days. She's been doing them every day in lockdown, and I can't do as many because I'm working from home. I have too many other things going on, but the pods have been brilliant, and we just really enjoy it. We've had some wonderful guests, and we've had Ryan Giggs, Gary Lineker, just Alan Smith, obviously Kev. It's just brilliant who we chat to. We won't just have only Arsenal people. We love rival fans. We do lots of different things. We're not about being controversial. We say what we got to say. As you can see, the three of us non-stop argue. It's just great. And that's really how it's happened. No, Gooners, no Mike, no. You have to come to us first if you want.
Well, we tried to transfer Amanda. We tried to get a free transfer, didn't we, KC, in the summer, and it didn't work out. Gooners podcast let us down there because he said that she was too Ozil money
for 14 pence. No one wanted me, so I have to stay.
1 penny more.
But I think the Highbury squad is really now mine and Sophie's home, and That's it. That's how I got into podcasts. It literally was a tweet. I didn't even know, honestly. When someone went, it's like a radio show, I went, well, why do they want to listen to me? And so many things have come good from Twitter and lots of different things that I've done over the time. And I love being guests on other people's pods as well. So that's how us three came together.
How about you, Soph? Because you're a journalist. I mean, the first thing I saw of yours was you interviewing David Beckham on your YouTube channel, because you're the correspondent. You do 20th Century Fox. You started off over there, didn't you? And I saw that you met Sean Connery and one of my favourite actors, and then you were doing the MLS.
Did you see that name drop? Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, I actually started just trying to report on Arsenal, finding gigs in London when I was still living in London, and got a show on London Greek Radio, still 103.3 FM. Big up to the Greek community in London. And then, we got the opportunity to replace Peter Polycarpou, who was actually one of the boyfriends on the TV show Birds of a Feather. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, I remember Peter.
Yeah, and Peter was a great guy, but he was busy with his acting stuff, and so they pulled in me and this young kid called Polis Polycarpou. Really amazing guy.
Names out, aren't you? All these that no one else can say.
Yeah, well,
you can be making them up. No one would know.
And so they gave us a shot to do a show aimed at second and third generation Greeks, like talking in English, a little bit of Greek as well, but bringing in like a little bit of sports, pop culture. So that's really how my radio career started. I think it was in 92. And big up to Polis and Andreas. They're bringing Greek singers in the UK now. They've carried that on. Really great stuff. And then during that time, I was doing that at night. So I had a day job where I was trying to make it in the entertainment industry, working for 20th Century Fox. And then at night, I'd go and do this show. And then, my career kind of evolved, got to work for 20th Century Fox, Sony Pictures in the UK. I can name drop a little bit more, Amanda, as you know. I've had the pleasure of working with some of the most incredible talent in the entertainment industry that, for me, are some of my fondest and greatest memories. But my passion was always to talk about sports. So I veered away from that. But when I moved to the US, I worked for 20th Century Fox still. I tried to get away and then they pulled me, like that Al Pacino scene. Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. So I took the job and then started talking on World Football Daily here when MLS was on the rise. And I mean, I got to interview Patrick Vieira, which was just a dream come true. Andre Pirlo, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, covered David Beckham. That's really how it kicked off for me with TalkSport. We used to do a nighttime segment for them when I was covering LA Galaxy and David, top shelf guy. And then it goes from there to other legends like Zlatan. The toughest one for me to really get into was Robbie Keane, but he was so good for LA Galaxy. Casey and I were talking about Ericsson and this Xhaka Ericsson rumored swap and rival players going to, rival teams and stuff. And so Robbie Keane, I gave him a tough question once in the dressing room and he looked at me and he literally said, "Who are you?" And I was like, all I wanted to say is, "Fuck you. Who are you?" You know what I mean? Sorry for the F-bomb, but it's just fun stuff like that. And I'm really grateful. And then as Amanda told the story, started talking on Arsenal podcasts. And I have to say, at Bergkamp Wonderland, Jeff Arsenal is the one that introduced me to you guys a good few years ago now. And I'll forever be grateful to Jeff for that introduction. And you guys have been phenomenal and so supportive of women talking football. And it hasn't been easy. We've come a long way as women, but at the same time, it's still a struggle out there. You get the odd dick that wants to say stupid things to you, but we just stay focused. We keep our head down and we work hard and we just love, what we do. And I would say this for a lot of podcasters. Not a lot of podcasters make money, you guys. We do this because we love Arsenal and we have a passion for talking football. So for me, that's kind of like the journey in a nutshell.
Just looking at our website, I've got a list of every show you've ever been on. It's an index. And the first one you did with us was 10-2 when Bayern beat us 5-1 home and away. And you were on with Jeff Arsenal, me and Andrew Fife.
Wow.
Jason was on there as well. And that was the 9th of March, 2017. That's the first time that you were on. You read the message, Chris?
I did. Yeah, I was just waiting for you to wrap
I'm
up.
officially.
I read the message.
Sophie, when you list off all the Sean Connery and the Robbie Keane, do you ever add Chris to that list?
You know what? Chris is such a... on September 19th, I celebrate Chris because it's Talk Like a Pirate Day. So I celebrate Chris and all of his greatness on that day. No, I mean, Chris and I have a love for European football and Liga. I don't know why. I mean, I think when I was doing World Football Daily, I had to cover every single league around the world. So I fell in love with Bundesliga, Liga, Serie A, and even the Copa Libertadores as well. I mean, it was so entertaining. And so being able to kind of talk about world football became a thing. So Chris and I share this French thing.
Hi.
And an MLS love as well.
And MLS, absolutely. You're a Chicago Fire fan, right, Chris?
I am, yeah. I missed out yet again, but less said about that.
Yeah, another bad season, yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Kev, next. Well, sort of Danny rests his voice for a moment, but how did you transition from becoming obviously an ex-footballer when you retired into the broadcasting industry? Because a lot of Arsenal fans will know you from your Arsenal career, but you had spells in Turkey, so you played for Everton for a bit. There's a whole long list of clubs that you played for and represented. So I guess people knew of your face and knew sort of the skills, the talent you had. But you think of the thousands of professionals who do retire and you never hear from again. So what got you that in, if you like, into broadcasting, and what made you say, yeah, this is what I want to do?
Well, Chris, I'll be honest with you. Nothing was planned, to be honest. I was playing football. I was always been comfortable in front of the camera or whatever, in interviews and stuff. But it wasn't something I'd planned or anything like that. It was just like a natural transition, because when my career finished, I got opportunities out in Dubai to do Premier League football and stuff like that. And I took it. I went over there. I'd done a few shows. People liked it. And then you start getting more thrown at you. Obviously, you come back and you do the odd interview and stuff like that. And it kind of built up from there. And I wasn't really on social media. I've got to tell you that. But one thing I will say is what really changed everything was one day I was walking and a fan came up to me and he said, "Why don't you ever respond to me on Twitter?" And I said to him, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, I always leave a message for you, but you never reply." And I said to him, "I'm not on Twitter." And he said, "Yes, you are." Do you understand what I mean? So I was like, "I'm not on Twitter. I'll show you my phone. I'm not on Twitter." So he says, "Well, who's that on Twitter then?" So I said, "Well, I have no idea. Who is it on Twitter?" So he gets his thing up, and this Kevin Campbell character on Twitter had like 8,000 fans. I'm thinking, hold on a minute, he's getting me in trouble here. You know, I think that the same thing happened when a Kevin Campbell character, right? A Kevin Campbell character at a restaurant in Palmer's Green kept going in there saying he was Kevin Campbell.
Oh, how funny.
Right? And running up a bill. And the owner found it funny, but he knew me, so he said, "Right, I know it's not Kev." So he called me when the guy was actually in the restaurant. Could you imagine? And I turned up at the restaurant, and I went and sat down, and the guy was like, didn't know what to do. Yeah, so you could imagine. But obviously on Twitter, you don't know. It could be anywhere, can't it? You know, so that's what got me into social media. I said, right, well, I'm not going to have anybody impersonating me. So that's what made me go through the rigmarole of getting my blue tick and all that kind of thing and getting on. So, and from there, obviously you start to, it's a different universe when you're on social media, because there's so many great fans all over the world. There's some idiots as well, don't get me wrong, but there are some fantastic fans and great people who do the podcasts, etc. And all in this time, I met these two lovely girls, and I met the crew because I came on when it was the four of you, didn't I? Mm-hmm. And we kind of built a rapport. And I think women in football are essential. I really do. Great thought process, great opinions, and you know what? They can argue, especially that one in your top right. She could argue with the best of them, right? So, and I loved it. I absolutely loved. We battled. We had a bit of banter, that's listen. I support these two all as much as I can because I think it's essential we keep it that way and boost these lovely ladies up.
Yeah, but also, Kev, you are also very, very supportive of us in anything we choose to do in our private lives and our work lives and everything. So as much as we may argue with you, because 9 times out of 10 you are wrong, we do love you to pieces, and we are like a little family, and that's how it's become, because that's how it works. We're just like brothers and sisters, and that's it. So we really appreciate you as well.
Can I just add to, after the back end of last season, do you know when there was the We Care Do You? Do you remember that? And the team were in America, and Koscielny didn't want to go and all that, and we made a pact with the girls. We made a pact with the ladies to say we're actually going to do more. We're going to connect with the fan base a bit more. And obviously these lockdowns now have kind of helped us do that, haven't they, girls?
Yes.
It's important for us to connect. There is a huge Arsenal fan base out there, and everybody's podcast is valid, whether we share the same opinion or not. But I just think it's great being an Arsenal family, part of it.
I agree. And I think one of the beauties about, our show is it's not just about analysing games and talking about games and tactics and drilling down like that, but we want to kind of infuse the pop culture lifestyle about the game. And we've infused some shows like the Evergreen series where we had the wonderful Dave Seeger. That episode still touches my heart when I think about it and I watch it, when Dave lost his son and he gets the FA Cup delivered to his house, and just talking to him about that after being a lifelong Arsenal fan. I'm in touch with Maria, who is, like the all-time Arsenal fan. I mean, Maria is someone who's watched home, away, under 23s, women, an amazing youth team, goes to every game. And now we've infused like the inside the dressing room where we get Casey and another player talking about football and kind of taking us beyond the pitch as well. So that's what I really love about our show and what we do as well. And to be able to talk football every day, like during this lockdown series we've introduced with Super Kev, is just really a treat. I mean, it really is. I can't even begin to say how thankful we are for that.
I'm not sure if younger people listen to this, realise what kind of player Kev was. He's one of our own. He came through the youth system at Arsenal, a Willock, a Nelson, a Smith Rowe, not Bellerin, because Bellerin came in from others. But all of those ones that we're excited now, Kev was one of those. And for him to have gone on and done so much, and to this day, I still don't forgive George Graham for getting rid of you and bringing in John Hartson.
Agree, Danny. John.
No, George didn't, Dan. George didn't. George was sacked before, wasn't he? He got the sack before I left.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, you were there. I'm not going to argue.
Remember, it was Bruce.
You argued with
Bruce Willock. That summer, remember, Stuart Houston took over.
Yeah.
It was Stuart Houston who brought John Hartson, Chris Kiwamya, Glenn Helder. Do you remember that lot came in?
Oh, scumbag.
And then at the end of the season, obviously, it was all changed. Everything was changed. The George Graham era, that team kind of changed, and I was out of contract, and it didn't quite work out with the manager. So that's why I ended up leaving. But obviously, if Wenger was there, it might have been different. But Bruce Rioch weren't my type of guy. And
I don't think he was anyone's type of guy.
He wasn't many people's, is he? Certainly wasn't Righty's.
No, he wasn't. And I remember Righty calling me, and I'm speaking to Righty, and he said, "Cams, what? Have you signed it?" I says, "No." I says, "I'm off." And he went, "What? What's going on?" So I said, "Righty, all the best with this one, mate." And I remember him calling me, and he's saying, Cam's is murder with this guy, absolute murders. So I mean, there was a lot of problems in that. Although we done quite well with the team at times, but the camaraderie and the connection between manager and the players was poor.
Yeah, it's quite odd because I remember talking. When you left and all these decisions were made, you were in your 20s, and we spoke to Dave Hillier a few times, and Dave Hillier said, looking back at it, George Wenger came in, and Wenger said, "I'd like you to stay and be part of it." And he went, "Oh, my mate's at Portsmouth. I think I'd rather go there and give that a go." And he says, looking back, obviously, he wished he'd have stayed now, but you can't go back and change it, so you just have to deal with how it is. A question about your son. I didn't realise that your son was born in Manchester. I didn't even realise you lived in Manchester. I hope I'm not giving that away. I was listening to your show the other day with when you were talking about it. How does he feel about you doing all of this and being on the telly and being a media sensation? And
all right. I tell you what, Dan, I'll come on again for you. All right, mate. I'll come on again for you.
Where's that tenner? Come on.
Yeah, thank you. No, he don't mind. He listens to it sometimes when he can. He's too busy having a career now, Dan. I'm the football dad now, and he's got the career. So you know, it's good luck to him as well. Listen, he's worked hard for it. Obviously, born and bred in Manchester, and you know, I call it grass. Has he got a Manc
accent, Kev?
Yeah, I call it grass and he calls it grass. You know what I mean? One of them ones. So it's like crazy. What can you do? You know what I mean? I'm trying to. I bought him an Arsenal kit back in the day, wore it once, and that was it. You know what I mean? And then his little brother, I bought him an Arsenal kit. He wore it once, and then it was. But they've been Man City before the money. They supported Man City before they even had money, because when they went to school, there's certain of their friends were Man City fans. James and all them boys, so they've been Man City again before the dough came in. So
some things you just can't control. Hey, KC.
Yeah.
It's hard for us because we all hate Stoke, and I want Stoke to do really badly until I realise your son was playing there.
I know. That's how we felt, right?
But you know, I've got to tell you this. This is the funny thing. You know, I speak to loads of Stoke fans, and the Stoke fans because they kind of clash with Arsenal because of the history. We know what's gone on. And you know what fans are like. Fans are horrible at times. But you know what? The Stoke fans I speak, they've got a lot of respect for Arsenal. It's just when you get them head-to-head with Arsenal fans, Arsenal ain't going to give an inch, and Stoke fans aren't going to give an inch. But, you know, behind the scenes, they've got so much respect for the Arsenal. It's incredible. And a lot of Arsenal fans are coming round a little bit. I don't mind Stoke doing well if your boy's in there. But you know.
That's the only reason we want them to do well.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions in the chat from Julian Salmondo. He says, ask Super Kev about the behind-the-scenes chat about the Powell Lyderson deal and George Graham going. I thought at the time that the team was really suffering under George Graham's style of play, because he changed his style of play, didn't he? I remember we had Anders Limpar on, and he said that George Graham decided to change it all, took out all the flair. He wanted hard-working John Jensen type players in the midfield, and things didn't really work out. I don't know if you can say anything about the whole Powell Lyderson and the Rennie Haag deals or anything like that, but as a player at the club at the time, could you see all this happening?
Well, I mean, we used to go to Norway and Sweden for pre-season training because they were in their season. Anyway, so seeing Rune Haga and stuff like that. So, you know, we used to see them, but we never were really into the talking about deals or anything like that. And, you know, when we heard that George was signing Powell Lyderson, you know, we just thought, great, get him in. Let's have a look and see what he's about. So, you know, he was always going to be a squad player because really that team at the time picked itself. But you know, when you come into the Arsenal, it's a tough school. And George did change it a bit, because when you look at, he put in players where he could really control. I think that was the key. Players he could really control started going in, because people with flair have a bit about them. And George, at the time, he was always coming up to loggerheads with certain players. You know, Rocky and Mickey Thomases of this world had gone.
Charlie Nicholas.
Charlie had gone earlier, and we became a more workman-like side.
Bit Mourinho-ish.
Yeah, you know, it was a lot more grunt and graft than flair. So, you know, that's what he could control. And we turned from a league winning side into a cup team. In the cup, we could grind out a win.
Bit like now.
In the league, we weren't consistent enough because we didn't have the flair. Yeah, Sophie, you're right. It was a bit like, feels a bit like now, although Arteta wants the flair, but he doesn't have the money to get the flair. George was lucky; he inherited a lot of his flair. So.
Well, they never gave him Usam Aouar, so we were left with a flairless team.
Well, no, we've got flair. We've got flair.
Yeah,
to see it.
you two. To see
no,
it.
No, we've got flair. It's the mentality of the players that's to change a little bit.
Or the manager changing who he selects. That we like to see against Leeds, Wolves, and Spurs next. Anyway.
Yeah. So, you got any questions, Chris? Or shall I just carry on?
Well, I've just got one, which is a slightly. No one's going to find this funny but me, but I don't really care. Kev, the candy, the candy cane hoop socks. There were no better socks in the Arsenal era than those, were they?
Man.
Talk about the bruised banana kit, but those white hoop socks were something else.
Well, it's funny when we first saw, because they revealed the kit to the squad, and we see the socks, and we're like, "What the hell are these?" What the hell are these like? A stick of rock or whatever it is. But they soon became quite, because when you put them on, they were different than the old sock. The old sock wasn't the best. This sock was all nice and stretchy, and it kind of went. It was like, okay, we could work with this one, and it grew on us, to be honest. Those socks, it did definitely grow on us.
I love those socks.
So did I. Yeah, I bought some a few years back. They cost me about 30 quid because they were that rare.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have a pair. Like, they're good at Christmas, especially as well. Those socks, they come in handy.
That was the level of,
yes.
That was the level of my input, Danny. Sorry, but I had to go there.
That's what I've been doing.
There you go. There they are.
Those are hot.
You know what's so annoying? He doesn't look any different.
No, doesn't age this guy at all.
Oh my God.
Kev, if you could go on, Sophie. Sorry.
He's Benjamin Button.
He's getting younger.
We watched that 2 nights ago.
Zlatan Benjamin Button literally gets.
Kev, if you could go back and give that young man there a bit of advice, what would you say to him?
Listen to Amanda in the East Stand Upper when she was having a go at him.
Oh, you're like that, Campbell, will ya?
Oh, yeah, how did you know, Danny? That was one of the shots. She was trouble. No,
I didn't say will ya because I'm not common, but I swore.
So, young man.
Young man.
He swore
Would
with
you
the best
move
of
up
them.
the field, please?
Do you know what advice I'd give that young man if I could give him some advice from now to then?
Yeah.
Keep enjoying it. Keep enjoying yourself. You're playing for the team who you supported as a kid. You've scored your first goal in front of the North Bank. Your first trophy in the first team was the league title. You won the FA Youth Cup as part of Pat Rice's youth team. You've played with some unbelievable legends at the club. Enjoy your football. And you know what? I wouldn't change a thing because I've had such a great career. There's been ups and downs in it, but what part of life doesn't have ups and downs? I've loved every minute, and there ain't many players who could say they've played for the team they supported as a kid and were successful. So I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed.
You know what's really amazing as well, guys, is that there aren't. I always equate this to it's so hard to have a hit television show. So to be in 1 or 2, and there's very few actors that have been in like hit television shows. Like to play and be a legend for 2 teams, and then also be a legend. Like no matter how you splice it, that Survival Sunday game with West Brom. Super Kev and all those players, they live in eternity for that club. But to play for a club like Arsenal and Everton, and for the kids out there, Everton in the 80s were just one of the sexiest football teams to watch. And then, they had this fun side that I think promised so much and did so many great things. But to be a legend for like 2 clubs like that, you don't get a lot of players that achieve that kind of that goal in football. It's really quite incredible.
And every fan that comes and talks to us on Twitter from all of your clubs all love you, which makes me so angry. Kev.
You're not angry.
Oh,
It doesn't
love
make
you.
you. And that's the thing. It don't make you angry, but you played the angry girl. I like that, PG.
I know.
But you know what?
Do.
No, but do you know the truth? I think when you're at Arsenal, and this is the truth, what I've got to tell you now. When you're at Arsenal, coming through the ranks, you are taught life skills that I still use the Arsenal life skills to this day. You are taught remember who you are, what you are, and who you represent. You always got to make sure you always do your best. Even if it's falling apart, you've always got to keep turning up, because you know what? At Arsenal, that's what Arsenal are about. Arsenal, you never jack it in. You always try your best. And those life skills are still with you today. You always take the challenge on. Because some of the clubs where I joined, and later on in my career, it wasn't about money or anything. It was about the challenge. Me leaving Everton to go to West Brom was about the challenge. Can I go there and make a difference?
Would you ever consider, I've never asked you this, would you ever consider being a manager?
At one stage I did. I was going on the backroom staff at West Bromwich Albion with, who was it? Nigel Pearson. It was Nigel Pearson. It was Michael Appleton. It was Craig Shakespeare. Obviously, Darren Moore was on the staff as well, kind of. So they wanted me, because I'd played such a prominent role in The Great Escape, etc. Had the boys here. They wanted me to start, because I was doing my badges at Everton with Fergie, with Alan Stubbs, and with Davy Weir. But I left there and went to West Brom. I had to concentrate on the football. So I didn't get into it as much. So they wanted me to go on after that. And the chairman pulled a contract. So they wanted me to have a playing contract and a coaching contract. And the chairman pulled the lot. So that's life. There's nothing I could have done about it. Brian Robson was absolutely sick. But I said, it's not your fault, Gaffer. You know, these things happen. That's when I left, and I was in the garden up until the week of the season. And then I got a call from Sam Haman asking me to come down and have some champagne and oysters with him in Cardiff. So you know, that's the way football is. And unfortunately,
but it's not too late though, Kev. It's not too late. You get your badges and stuff.
No, it's gone now. It's gone now.
I see Kev as an advisor type, going in for a consulting or a contract and just smashing it and geeing kids up or young players up and poof,
I'll tell you what I have been doing. What I have been doing in the background, obviously, is doing mentoring. I've mentored a lot of young players who have been released, players who are pros, who are trying to get into first teams, etc. They need some advice. They need some truth. And, there was that young lad at Man City who took his life. It's just so sad. And he was, he was probably 4 years younger than my son. And I've got a son the same age as that lad, Kyle, who, he was at Man City when he was young, decided no, he didn't want to do it because he didn't like the structure, wanted to play with his friends, which I loved. Then at 15 turns around and said he wants to get into professional football. So you said, right, you're going to have to start at the bottom. And he said, yeah, he's prepared to do that. And he's now at Buxton. He's played some he's 17 now. He's played some first team games at Buxton last season. So he's on the right track, if you know what I mean. So again, there's all these young players who need mentoring. They do. And it's great to see, I think, Michael Thomas, Andrew Cole, Paul Williams. There's quite a few of the ex-players now who are helping youngsters with their mentoring, because a lot of these guys, they don't know and they don't get it from the club. So it's essential that experience helps them.
KC, that's such a great point, because here in the NFL as well, especially, that became a huge trend. I think Deion Sanders, prime time legend, smashed it. Incredible athlete, baseball and NFL. Started doing that, and then you go to players like Ray Lewis that kind of continued that, and that's a huge part of Kobe, the late great Kobe Bryant. Started doing that in his career too, advising young players, giving them advice. It's such a huge, important part, because we deal with disappointment on a daily level in our lives, and when you go into football and you think you're going to make it and then you get cut loose, you really, a lot of these young players don't realize that there's so many other parts of the sport that they can be involved in. And letting them know about that, I think, is a huge thing. So the mentoring part is so you. I think that's super cool.
Every club, as far as I'm concerned, Soph, every club should have a panel of minimum of 3 ex-players to help these academy kids, just to be seen around, asking them how they are, knowing who gets, released, etc. So these guys can go around and see them and make sure they're all right.
Like a social
I don't know why it's not in place, but it needs to be in place.
It's not like they can't afford it, and they could, if they have a handful of, have a handful of them there, like you say, they could pay. It's a good way to give ex players a decent wage. They've all been through it all, like helping them with social work, and even like, wasn't it on the Spurs documentary, Chris, where we were laughing because Dele Alli said he made an omelette for the first time ever, and this is a bloke who's in his mid-20s. Huh?
Yeah, and put
beans.
beans
He didn't have to
in
make
the
beans.
microwave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at schools nowadays they just don't teach what should be taught. To be
Life
honest,
skills.
they need to know exactly finances, life skill, everything, because for their mental health and to progress in this world, there's so many things they don't know, and they're not taught it. But just something I want to go back to something. So,
PG, can I just put something into your minds? Every kid, or virtually every kid that I've mentored, who had been released, had contemplated suicide.
Oh,
I reckon it's 80% had contemplated, because when you think about it, they're probably 15, 16, 17 or whatever. All they've known from probably the age of 6 or 7 is professional football or being at the club. So they've done it from such a young age. Now they've gone through their teenage years and through school, and some of them are half days at school, and then the rest of the day they're at the club.
They don't know anything else.
They don't know any different.
And when they get released, they're welcome.
They've never known disappointment.
Yeah,
they've never known disappointment. So sorry, I didn't want to cut across you. I just wanted to get that into the psyche that this is so big.
And that's where social media can help, because I'm not being funny. The amount of tweets I've seen recently where people saying, I don't feel good. I just don't feel good. I've never seen so many. I know this year has been an absolute frigging nightmare for everybody. But the age group I worry about is my son, who's 17. It's a nightmare for him at the moment, and the older. But everyone seems to be struggling. And I think where social media can help and come together is to support anyone that needs it. It doesn't hurt to write a nice tweet. Always be kind. You just don't know what people are going through, whether they're like gobby like me or confident like you lot or whatever, all of us. People don't know. So be kind.
It shows like this, Dan. It shows like this that actually get people positive, because it's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And that's why these podcasts really help people. I tell you, because it's something that, do you know what? I'm going to look forward to this podcast. Or I'm looking forward to going on and seeing, the Highbury squad on your podcast, Dan. It's incredible what people need right now, because their lives are upside down.
More so that they can get involved. They can speak to you. They can write little questions in the chat room, and
interaction.
You couldn't do that. Yeah, that they need. A lot of people are lonely. They're not seeing families, friends. It's a nightmare at the moment. Everyone needs to look out for everyone.
People just want a voice. People just want to be heard. In a world where everyone's kind of being silenced, depending on what opinion they have, people just want to be heard. And I think that sports always brings people together. This is why it's important that football carries on. I know that we're in another COVID phase 2, 3, or whatever it is. They're talking today about letting fans in earlier than maybe we expected. But, the beauty about film, music, sports, it brings people together. There's a reason why the Olympics kind of brings the world together every 4 years when it does. And it's all the in-between stuff that gets murky. But I think one of the beauties about social media is that connectivity, and that fans can talk to someone like Kev, or they can connect with podcasters that they have an affinity with. I think that's the real beauty about all of this. As ugly as it can be sometimes, I think that it also breeds a lot of good, healthy things too.
I know.
Go on, Chris.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and I know Kev is a bit pressed for time, so I just wanted to get this one in. Kev,
I'm not pressed anymore. I'm not pressed. I've just told just told them. No, not cancelled. No, I said give me another 15 minutes. So.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I've just finished. I say reading. I've listened actually to Nicholas Bentner's audiobook, and whilst there is, let's just say, questionable content in there, what's very clear to me is that this kid had an awful amount of talent, and he knew from a very young age that he had an awful amount of talent. And as somebody who played with an extrovert like Righty, for example, I just wonder, like you talking about mentoring players, when you were training at Arsenal, or if you were training in the modern day, you look at players like Bentner, who've, ultimately, yes, he's played for some massive clubs, but I'm pretty sure he'll look back in 10 to 15 years and go, if I just hadn't had that night out in, on wherever in London, or if I hadn't have gone to that party, I hadn't have done that, whatever. Is there sort of like a hard and fast rule that you would give to younger players and say, look, there's nothing wrong with being confident, but there comes a time where you have to just work hard and you have to just say, yeah, you can be loud, you can be the voice of the party, and you can enjoy yourself, but ultimately don't look back. So you were saying there, you don't regret anything. Do you think that's harder for younger players now?
I don't think it's harder. I think there's probably some more different challenges where social media it plays a part in how youngsters operate now. But you know what? Football's still the same. The ball is still round. There's 2 goals at the end of each of the pitch. And, when you cross that white line, you've got to perform. Now, if you're out partying and you can go across that white line and perform, nobody could say anything. But 9 times out of 10, the moment you're out and about and doing other things and not having your mind on the game, and then you try and cross that white line, you'll get beaten because other players are more dedicated than you. Everybody trains hard. Everybody is committed. And if you're not committed, you're going to get found out. No matter how talented you are, Pat Rice always used to say to us, fail not having the talent, never fail from not having the application. And that's the key thing I would say to any youngster in any walk of life, anything they're getting involved in. You have to be true to that discipline, whatever it's football, whether it's journalism, whether it's road sweeping, because even if you do that half-heartedly, somebody's going to take your job because you're not doing it properly. So, tough school. Yeah. It's a tough school especially for these youngsters. Like, I've never had to have this conversation with my eldest son. My youngest son, I've had to have this conversation when he's obviously wants to get back into it, because I've got to prepare him for what he's going to go into, because he's not going into it as a kid. He's going into it as like a scholar. So it's going to be a shock to his system what's about to come, because, we've just been playing with his school team and Sunday team and that. So it was a shock to him.
Yeah, I bet.
It's so funny as well, because everything's relevant on your level, right? I remember growing up, I told my parents I wanted to work in the film industry. And, I was growing up a Greek girl in London. Things were a little bit different back then. Growing up in an ethnic family was different back then. And their response was like, you're not going to be an actress. And I said, I don't want to be an actress. I just want to work in the film industry, find a role that fits me, suits me. All I knew is that I wanted to be in, I saw the 20th Century Fox logo when I watched Star Wars as a young girl. And I was like, that's what I want to do. A bit like David Beckham when he saw that Spice Girls videos and he saw Victoria Beckham and he said to Gary Neville, I'm going to marry that girl. That was me and Star Wars and the Fox logo. But my parents were like, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to go and be an accountant or a lawyer. And that's how things were more back that day. And so it's never easy trying to follow your dreams depending on where you grow up and how you grow up. But once you get into whatever that dream is, it's all about working hard. I mean, I wrote a letter to 20th Century Fox every week. And I said, I want to work for you one day. And they kept writing me back and said, when you're old enough. And so I just kept writing them a letter, the office in London. And then one day they called me and they said, we have an opening for a secretary. And I was like, yes. You know, for me, I didn't care. You know, I wanted to be a publicist, really, but I was like, yes, I'll take that secretarial job if I get it. And I did end up getting it, and then just, you know, worked my way up. And I think in today's world, and I don't want to, you know, criticize generations, but there is a little bit of that. I love millennials. I've managed them. I've worked alongside them. They've been my boss as well, and I've learned so much from them. But this instant gratification part of life these days, it's just not real. You know, you still have to graft and work hard. And I think there's a lot of reward in that. You know, you can sit back and look at your sweat, tears and your scars and really be grateful for those moments. So I think no matter what discipline you're in, all of those things apply. So it's a great point, Casey.
Very good. People are putting in lots of really good questions. Don't put them here because this is just talking about podcasting, a little bit of stuff. There's their YouTube link for the Highbury squad. Go, because this lot are there every show. So go and subscribe and follow. Actually, you can't subscribe.
Very nice.
You do subscribe. They need to have some kind of organised format where you either follow, subscribe, or that lot, because each different social media is different. But yeah, go there every show. They'll have all these things. You can give them all the questions there. Last 5 minutes of the show, Sophie, what sort of stuff have you got? Like, also go back, people, and listen to theirs. They did a show yesterday with Mickey Gray. He talks a bit about that 10, 15 years ago they stopped kids cleaning boots, and he says that makes you have a better grasp of reality as a young man coming through, rather than being wrapped in cotton wool. It's really lovely bloke. Everybody loved that Sunderland side of him and Kevin Phillips and Peter Reid. Fantastic.
Quinny. Yeah.
It's a go and have a listen to that show, and then an ex-pro along with Kev talking about how it used to be, and maybe the people in charge should have a listen to that and maybe change a few things. Stop mollycoddling all these young kids. But what stuff have you got coming up, Sophie?
We're going to do another Inside the Dressing Room. That's going to be a big part of our series going forward. We have another evergreen series coming up as well, which is we take someone, whether they're a key influencer or just an Arsenal fan somewhere in the world, and they tell us their story about how they fell in love with the Gunners. When the season kicks in again, we'll be doing our post-game shows and stuff like that. But we're
a rival fans pod, aren't we?
Where we're doing a rival fan pod. Yeah, we're even have a Tottenham fan on when we play the North London derby. So for us, it's about creating content that really engages the fan, gets the conversation going, gets the fires burning, whether you agree or disagree with us or not. That's our goal. So, we're really proud of the lockdown series and what we've been doing. And we really appreciate the support and you sharing it with your listeners as well. And the Mickey Gray, Kevin conversation, those are the episodes that I really love, where you can go back and listen to those stories. I mean, some of the stuff that they talked about, you guys will really enjoy. It really takes you into the dressing room, and only players can tell certain stories. I think there are great journalists that tell amazing stories. And we as modern day bloggers and vloggers and stuff, have our stories to tell too. But when the players get together and they get into that banter, it really is a totally different type of conversation.
Hey, but one thing I didn't put in, Sophie, which I wanted to talk about, but I couldn't, was, I used to clean boots at Arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Viv Anderson, I had Viv Anderson, Charlie Nicholas, and I had 3 staff. So I used to do 5 pairs of boots. And Viv Anderson tried to charge me at Christmas for cleaning his boots. He was tight as anything, he was. And I wind him up, even to this day. I wind him up. He ended up giving me 20 quid, right? He ended up giving me 20 quid, and he says, because they used to call me Rambo, obviously. He said, listen, Rambo, you should be paying me to clean my boots. I was like, what are you talking about?
Mickey was talking about getting tips and stuff, and Viv was shunning you, and that's brilliant. But Frank Lampard talked about it, didn't he? He's like, I wish we could bring back those days, because even Frank talks about just these lessons you learn by doing that, and the level of respect you then have when you even get. Mickey and KC were talking about that elusive wanting to be in the first team, be in the dressing room, even be recognized, just getting into that moment. So hearing them talk about that kind of stuff is just absolute gold. Brilliant stuff.
I think Viv Anderson is one of the easily forgotten players in Arsenal because he won all that stuff with Forest, came to Arsenal, magnificent, scored the goals, one hell of a player. And then people just think that Arsenal right backs started with Lee Dixon. Well, it didn't. For me, I mean, Pat Rice was before that. But Viv Anderson, always one of my... I think I've got a book that... I think he wrote a book at the World Cup. It might have been Viv Anderson and Kenny Sampson wrote a book together about them, one of the World Cups. I've got loads of those old books like that. But I was just thinking, there's a bloke called Junior McDougall. He was a trainee at Spurs, and most trainees at Spurs now can just go out and buy brand new Bentleys. I remember him telling me back in the early 90s when he'd only just left. He said he bought Sol Campbell's second-hand car off him, an old white Escort convertible, and that's the kind of levels you had to deal with back then. I don't know what Junior's up to now, but he's a lovely bloke. But having to buy your mates second-hand cars, and now money means nothing to them. So then, if money, like there were so many players back in the probably the third generation of Arsenal youths under Wenger, where they're all on 40 grand a week. And then one of them, I think it might have been Craig Eastman or one of those, said, all I really care about is getting my wages every week. Don't really care about football. That was the gist of it, not verbatim. But there were so many young players just ruined by money. But what if you see,
Dan, let me just tell you, the thing about money is if you let the youngsters just run amok, they will. But at Arsenal, you had Pat Rice as your youth team. You had Geordie Armstrong as your reserve manager. You had George Graham and Theo Foley at the helm. You had Terry Murphy and Steve Burtonshaw in the background, a youth officer, and all the people connected. This is where the first team players, the likes of Rocky, Tony Adams, Michael Thomas, Paul Davis, all these guys were there to keep you in line. These were the leaders of the club. But it seems like everybody's just too busy thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
Now,
if you try and stop them, the kids will just go to another club. If you say no, we're not going to pay you, ruin you with money. We're going to do it properly. They'll go, well, I go to Dortmund. Then.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying. One thing I'm not saying is you can't pay them what they deserve. You can't. But what I'm saying is there's a structure to it within the club. So if
like a family.
It's a family. So there's rules to how you move forward and how you progress. And the coaches and the players have to work together to get the mind of these youngsters in line. Once they're in line, you're fine.
I think that's why
they can run them up.
KC, I think that's why football fans like Chris and I gravitate to some of the other leagues as well, because players don't earn that kind of money. Premier League players do. I mean, in MLS, I'm interviewing someone who earns 65 grand and was a pool cleaner, and he's playing next to a designated player like a Gerrard, Robbie Keane, Lampard, Pirlo, David Villa, who's earning like $4.5 million. I mean, that is real life. These guys aren't earning shit tons of money like everybody else. And I think that's why some fans have also gravitated to, a lot of my family go and watch Barnet, Leyton Orient.
Not non-league or whatever. Lower league or non-league.
Yeah.
Because it's back to the reality. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever want a real reality of lower league football, Chris he owns his own team, the Barbican Pirates, and the amount of grief that he has to go through with the Plymouth FA, with the General FA, with all the paying a fortune for a waterlogged pitch that's at a 90 degree angle that's looked like a plough's been through it. We've done it a few times, but if anybody ever wanted to talk to Chris about that, he'll give you chapter and verse about how hard it is and how much they do not care about you. I mean, from what I can pick up, it's all about the money, which is most things in life, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah, still is. Yeah, even in what's going on in the world, you can bet your ass the local FAs are still looking to scrape in as much money as possible and suspending teams for not paying pitch fees and God knows what else. Oh yeah, it's an ongoing cycle. But
do they put nets on your goalposts, Chris? At least do you get nets, or do you have to go fetch the ball? Like
you got to buy your own nets. So you buy your own and you put them up on your own. But we took a year off this year because of the COVID situation, because I just wasn't. So it sounds a bit doomy, I guess. But when you're just a simple bloke like I didn't want somebody. I didn't want it on my conscience that potentially one of my players could pick it up, go home, newborn baby, etc., and so on. I haven't got enough money to be paying out for that, and they didn't offer extra insurances for it. So I just said, you know what, it's not worth it this season. It's not worth it. And a lot of people laughed at me and said, oh, no, it'll be fine. Well, it's funny how the games got that's very true, Josh. The games all got postponed again a month ago, and and I've watched local football while it's sort of been in the COVID times, and even despite all the emails and the information packs and that, there's still loads of teams that are not practicing what they should be, and not putting safety things in place, and they do that because they can't afford to do it. No Sunday League team's going to afford sterilisation kits and God knows what else. They're just not. So they're all taking a risk, and people wonder why the spread continues and so on. So it's not just in this country; it's everywhere. But unfortunately, money will always. They say that they filter it down to the grassroots, but not enough would be my way of saying that. 6 free balls a year is not enough.
Excellent. So sad. Right. We're going to close. So, Amanda, I know you always like to have the last word on your podcast. Anything you'd like to say before we all go?
No, just thank you for having us. It's been really nice, and I want to come back when everybody's on from the old show. I mean, FK, I was on with Andrew. Does he ever come on? My mate Andrew.
House. He said
I know he
free.
has.
Yeah.
I'd love to come on with Andrew.
Good
Jeff.
date in the diary, 2028. Are you free then?
In a couple of months, let's do it.
I'll try and get you on with Jeff Arsenal. And
I love my Jeff.
He's got the taste for podcasting again, and get Andrew Fife on there, and have a bit of a chit chat. Anything else you want to plug, Sophie or Kev or Amanda, before we go?
Come join us tomorrow. We're going to be live at 7:30 UK time. We have a fun guest, Carl Newman, film director. He's got a new. If you're into Dungeons and Dragons, which is a phenom right now, Carl's been part of the new movement for it. He's got a cookbook based on it. It's a New York Times bestseller. It's smashing it over here right now and on Amazon. He's a Gooner. He's followed Arsenal around the world.
It's a World of Warcraft, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. He's a top shelf film director as well, and he's actually a huge Star Wars fan and a consultant to J.J. Abrams on a lot of these new movies as well too. So he'll be a fun guest that we have on tomorrow, and then on Thursday we're doing a US fan based show. We'll have Arsenal Los Angeles on. Maybe Mike will pop on and say hello. We have a few others as well that we'll be doing. So, just more fun stuff to come down during the lockdown series.
Lovely, jubbly. Right. Cheers, Chris, for joining us. And we all want to say, come on, Montebello. Come on, Malta, don't we, Chris? It's their striker. Danny. We want them to do well against the mighty Faroe Islands. Thank you very much.
20 minutes gone.
I've been keeping an eye on it for you. Thank you very much, Amanda. It's been lovely to have you back.
Oh, thanks, Dan. Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, Sophie. You've been charming as always.
Thank you, guys.
And to the legend that is Mr. Kevin Campbell, thank you for entertaining me for my
Come on,
early
you Gunners! Come on.
See you all later.
Bye.
Bye.